Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen were announced that they're coming to the Switch recently, but before you buy, if you're somebody who's going to be new to these titles, I got a couple of things that we need to talk about that might help you prep for your journey. Now, this announcement of FireRed and LeafGreen has caused more ripples in the Pokemon community, and I'm pretty sure have sent people to their therapist over a $20 price tag. This is all I want to address for the situation. If you are a grown adult with grown-up money and a $20 price tag is stressing you out, I'm sorry, but you might have bigger problems. Now, I'm not saying you have to be happy with the $20 price tag. It was rumored a week before that it could be at a $30 price tag. They could have easily packaged this like they did Super Mario Galaxy and sold it for $70. However, they was rumored to be at 30, officially came out at 20, and people still want it for 10. Had it come out for 10, people would have still wanted it at 5. Had it come out at 5, oh, it should have been for free. You cannot win with everybody on the internet. There's no point in trying. The excuse of people wanting Pokemon to bring back older generation games to the modern consoles so we could replay them and actually get to relive our childhood and just have a legitimate way of actually experiencing those games instead of, going around corners and here and downloading emulators and ROMs and all that. You wanted a legitimate way to play Pokemon FireRed, LeafGreen, Gen 2, Gen 3, so forth. Well, we're finally getting to that point and people are still unhappy about it. Yes, you can emulate it on your phone. Yes, you can emulate it on your computer. Go ahead and do so. We don't care. We're not talking to you. Emulate it if you want. Don't buy it. Do what makes you happy, but please stop pocket watching the rest of us. Shut that up. Now, before we get into all the nitty gritty, shout out to Joe Merrick. Joe Merrick is the guy that runs the Cerebi.net website. Many of you guys are familiar with it. He tweeted a couple of days ago why its own thing and not on Nintendo Classics. It's simple. Save data, cloud, and rewind. Game Freak have routinely not one of these, so you can't scum encounters, releases, or trades. Plus, home connectivity would need its own save file too. Now, it has been confirmed that home connectivity is eventually going to be compatible with Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen. These games that we play on NSO can't do that. They're pretty much just emulations, right? Now, people are going to say, well, they can't, there's no quality of life changes. There's no, this and that. Doesn't matter. This is probably the only reason why they did it. Now, Philly Beats You did actually go and post some questions that Nintendo answered about FireRed and LeafGreen, and here's what they had to say. They were asked if these games will also be coming to the Nintendo Classics collection. They answered that these games are being offered as a standalone software and are not planned for a release as part of the Game Boy Advance Nintendo Classic collection. Why are you handling these classic games differently? In celebration of 30 years for Pokemon, we thought it would be fun to return to the ultimate versions of the original Pokemon adventures in the Kanto region with the special re-releases. Which is kind of also the same answer they gave here. It says, well, why aren't you originally putting out blue and red? Well, we thought users would appreciate the ultimate versions of those original adventures that added various features, upgrades, and content to Pokemon Red and Blue. They also asked if Pokemon Red and Blue will eventually be on NSO. And right now, the only thing they had left to say was at the very bottom that we have nothing to announce regarding any other potential titles and just listed what is currently on the NSO. Now, let's get to the actual reason why you're here. Now let's talk version exclusives. While this is technically a Gen 3 game, this is still a remake to the original ones. There is a national dex that is locked until the post game. So yes, you can catch Johto and a couple of Hoenn Pokemon, but you gotta make it to the post game first. And if you're somebody who's not gonna be getting both copies and you just wanna get one or the other, then it really comes down to which Pokemon do you want the most. FireRed has Ekans, while LeafGreen has Sandshrew. We got the Oddish line versus the Vulpix line. Psyduck versus Bellsprout. FireRed has Growlithe. LeafGreen's got Slowpoke. The classic split in version exclusives. FireRed's got Scyther. LeafGreen's got Magmar. Electabuzz on FireRed. Pinsir on LeafGreen. Then you can see some of the Johto Pokemon that you can actually obtain based off the version exclusive. Now, there is a form of Deoxys that is limited to that version. If we do end up getting the event where we can encounter Deoxys, because it was found out that the soundtrack for Deoxys was in there, nothing's been confirmed yet, but if you want the attack form of Deoxys, go with FireRed. If you want the defense form, go with LeafGreen. Fun fact, back then we didn't have all the resources people had nowadays, so imagine us seeing our Golbat for the first time getting a evolution animation and then just not evolving. Well, that was because the post game held the actual national deck, so you couldn't actually get Crobat until you were in the post game. So if you're somebody who wants to get a Crobat and keep the Golbat in your party, I suggest giving it an Everstone so you don't have to see that animation every single time. Now, the crazy thing about FireRed and LeafGreen is that we actually get access to the legendary beast trio: Suicune, Raikou, Entei. However, you only get access to one, not all three. And the one that you get was decided based on the starter Pokemon that you chose. So in this case, it was the one that was always stronger to your starter Pokemon. So if you chose Bulbasaur, you found Entei. If you chose Squirtle, you found Raikou. If you chose Charmander, you found Suicune. Now, getting access to the legendary beast was interesting, and it was crazy annoying trying to find them roaming around because they were never a guaranteed encounter. If you happen to run into the legendary beast, Master Ball it. No. Master Ball it. Or you could just have a Pokemon use Mean Look, because I'll tell you what, if one of them use Roar and that battle ends, they are gone. They are out of there forever, and you can never encounter them again. I know. We lived through some rough times back then. It was horrible. Now, here's a breakdown of all the Pokemon that you can get in FireRed and LeafGreen. So in Kanto, there's 112 Pokemon, 125 in total. There's 2 fossils, 4 trades, 3 starters, right? So yes, you have to have the trade evolutions, which I know a lot of people are upset the fact that it doesn't have online capability, but however, some of you guys need some social skills. So I think having localist wireless communication like we did back in the day, being able to hang out with our friends and trade Pokemon here and there, was actually a good thing. Some of you guys need to get out there more. Or if you're somebody who has a Switch 2 and maybe never traded in their Switch 1, you can do that yourself. That's cool. Now, there's a total of 36 Johto Pokemon, 6 that you can obtain by trade, like Slowking, Steelix, Scizor, Kingdra, legendary dogs, which you want to get 1 of, and 2 Hoenn Pokemon, which is Azumarill and Wynot. Now, in the chance that we are given access to the event Pokemon, we have the ability to catch Lugia, Ho-Oh, and Deoxys. Now, while there are a lot of cool Pokemon in the post game that you can obtain, there is a Pokemon that is affected by this, which is Eevee. Eevee is the only exception because since Espeon and Umbreon need night and day cycles, FireRed and LeafGreen did not have night or day cycles, so there is no way to actually get Espeon or Umbreon, which I understand the top 2 favorite evolutions. I know, I'm sorry. And as a bit of a side note, remember all those Pokemon that were like normal typed, and then after Gen 6 they got the fairy typing? Yeah, fairy typing doesn't exist anymore, so they're all just pretty much back to their normal status. So now, another big change that you might not be prepared for is how you level up your Pokemon and their moves. So this was before the days of like mass XP share, right? Now, we did have access to an XP share, but it can only be used on one Pokemon at a time. Your whole team didn't get the experience for battles. So yes, back are the days where we had to manually grind each Pokemon and strategize how we were gonna actually level them up. An old school trick that we used to do was any weaker Pokemon that we wanted to grind and level up that didn't have the XP share, we would make it our lead, go into battle, and as soon as the battle started, swap it out with our lead or our ace, if you will. So that way you could get some actual XP. So you're gonna have to be a little bit more strategic with how you want to level up your team, since not everybody's going to be able to get the XP. Now, when it comes to their moves and TMs and move tutors, well, they're pretty much a one and done. No more spamming the same TM across different Pokemon so they can have the same move. This brings a different level of strategy of knowing which Pokemon you want to have that certain move in their moveset. HMs, on the other hand, HMs could be used repeatedly, and if you were like me and plenty of other players, you probably had maybe that HM god, right? Or that HM tank where all they did was learn HM moves that you took with you to move boulders out of the way or cut down branches and light up dark caves. We all had that one Pokemon, don't lie. You say otherwise, I know you're lying. Now, throw away everything you knew about special and physical attacks, because back in these times, these were categorized by the typing. Here's a quick breakdown of how it worked. When it came to physical attacks, those were basically done by normal, fighting, flying, poison, ground, rock, bug, ghost, and steel. When it came to your special attacks, fire, water, grass, electric, psychic, ice, dragon, and dark. There was no more mixing and matching within all the typings. It was either, if you had a fire type move, that was a special attack. You had a ground type, you had a physical attack. So it's a pretty interesting breakdown, a different dynamic back in these type of games. So, but if you're familiar with it, should be like riding a bike, you'll get back into it, no problem. These were some of the things that were really never explained to us back in the day. These were just the things that people stumbled upon and learned about, and it spread by word of mouth, or we would go on Game Facts. Do you remember Game Facts? I know you remember Game Facts, but you also got access to the item finder. Be honest, how many of you back in the day actually proactively used the item finder? Using this was how we got access to some pretty good items. Once you wake up the sleeping Snorlax, if you go back to where it was at, use the item finder, you can find leftovers. Where you fight Giovanni as the gym leader, you go back to the gym where he was standing, use the item finder, you can find the Macho Brace. To get the Soothe Bell, all you gotta do is go back to where Mr. Fuji was being held captive, use the item finder, and bing, there you go. Now in FireRed and LeafGreen, your starter Pokemon are not shiny locked. You can actually go in and try to get a shiny Charmander, shiny Squirtle, or Bulbasaur. However, just know, the shiny odds that you are used to are not the way they were back then. We are talking about the shiny odds being 1 in 8,192. No shiny charm, no sandwiches, no donuts, full odds every time. You want a shiny hunt your starter? Go ahead. Anytime you have a static encounter or a gift Pokemon, shiny hunt it. Why not? Go for it. Go crazy. However, I will warn you, while the legendary beast can be shiny, they are not a guaranteed spawn because they are always roaming around. You never have one spot that you can find them. But if we do get access to the events like Lugia, Ho-Oh, and Deoxys, those are guaranteed static encounters. So those we definitely can shiny hunt for. Now I understand not everybody's gonna play these titles. They don't want to go back to Kanto, but FireRed and LeafGreen are a specific point in the series where things started to change, and it held a lot of post-game content. There's Team Rocket subplots, different islands you can go to. There's a lot of things to actually enjoy in this title that you can relive as your kid. Maybe you didn't play FireRed and LeafGreen and you want to go and finally experience it. You know, us that were older, we have younger relatives or even kids that never experienced it and that are excited to go back and play these games. Maybe you're somebody that played it in the past and never really touched any of the newer Pokemon games, and this would be a good time for you to do so and relive it. Whatever the case is, there's something for everybody. And again, guys, if this is not for you and you want to use the argument of emulating and all that, shut that shit up. It's been your boy Sarge. I will see you guys on Pokemon Day live right here on the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.